What if the entire universe was run like a corporation? A celestial bureaucracy with a board of divine directors, departments for thunder and rain, ministries for life and death, and a CEO overseeing it all from a golden throne in the clouds. This isn't science fiction. This is the organizational chart of heaven in one of the world's oldest belief systems. And at the very top sits its ruler, a being of unimaginable power known as the Jade Emperor. He commands an army of 100,000 celestial warriors. He signs off on the promotions and demotions of gods, and his decrees echo through every corner of reality, from the highest heavens to the deepest hells. But here's the mystery that lies at the heart of this cosmic government. Who is he? Unlike Zeus, who seized his throne by waging a bloody war against the Titans, or Odin, who sacrificed his eye for wisdom, the Jade Emperor's rise to power is shrouded in a story of immense suffering and an impossible choice. He wasn't born a god. He didn't inherit his power. He earned it through a process so arduous, so mind-bendingly difficult, that it makes the labors of Hercules look like a walk in the park. The secret of how a mortal man ascended to become the supreme ruler of all existence is a story rarely told in the West. And that story begins not with a bang, but with a world drowning in chaos. Long before the Jade Emperor, there was only the void, an endless, formless darkness that held within it a cosmic egg. For 18,000 years, this egg nurtured the first being, the giant Pangu. When he awoke, he shattered the egg with a mighty axe. The light and clear parts floated up to become the heavens, while the heavy and murky parts sank to become the earth. Fearing they would merge back together, Pangu stood between them, pushing the sky up with his hands and stamping the earth down with his feet. Every day, the sky grew 10 feet higher, the earth 10 feet thicker, and Pangu 10 feet taller. He did this for another 18,000 years, until the heavens and earth were fixed in their places. When his task was done, the exhausted Pangu lay down and died. But his death was also an act of creation. His breath became the wind and clouds, his voice the rolling thunder. His left eye became the sun, his right eye the moon. His body formed the great mountains, his blood the rivers, his hair the stars in the night sky. Pangu had built the house, but it was empty. It was the goddess Nuwa, with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a serpent, who sculpted the first humans from the yellow clay of the riverbank. She breathed life into them, and for a time there was a fragile peace. But the world was still young, and the pillars that Pangu had used to separate heaven and earth were not yet stable. The gods themselves were a pantheon of raw, untamed forces. There was Gonggong, the hot-tempered god of water, and Zhurong, the fiery god of fire. They were rivals, cosmic opposites locked in an eternal struggle. One day, their rivalry boiled over into a cataclysmic war. In a fit of rage after losing a battle, Gonggong smashed his head against Buzhou Mountain, one of the 4 pillars holding up the sky. The pillar shattered. The sky tilted, ripping a great black hole in the heavens. The earth cracked open and fire spewed from its depths. The waters of the celestial rivers poured down through the gash in the sky, causing a flood of biblical proportions. The world of humanity was on the brink of total annihilation. It was a world of monsters, demons, and selfish, warring gods. A world without a leader, without a king, without anyone to maintain order. Heaven was in a state of crisis. The divine beings were powerful, but they were also arrogant and fractured. They fought amongst themselves for territory and influence, ignoring the plight of the mortals below. The demons of the earth, seeing the weakness and division in the heavens, grew bold. They crawled from the darkest pits and shadows, preying on humanity, feasting on their fear and despair. The celestial bureaucracy was in shambles. The great ministries that were supposed to govern the forces of nature were rudderless. It was a failed state on a cosmic scale. The worthiest of the gods, the so-called 3 pure ones, were beings of immense philosophical power, but they were too absorbed in meditating on the fundamental nature of the Tao, the cosmic way, to be bothered with day-to-day administration. They were thinkers, not rulers. They understood the universe needed a manager, an executive, someone to handle the messy business of governance, so they could continue their esoteric pursuits. But who could possibly take on such a role? Who possessed the wisdom, the compassion, and the strength to command the respect of arrogant gods, quell the insurrections of savage demons, and bring peace to the suffering mortal world? The gods looked amongst themselves and found no one suitable. They were all too flawed, too ambitious, too divine. They lacked the perspective of the very beings they were meant to protect. and so they looked down. Down to the world of mortals, to the realm of dust and toil, of suffering and hope. And it was there, in a tiny kingdom called the majestic felicity of the forest of pure bliss, that they found a candidate. He was not a warrior or a sorcerer. He was a prince, the crown prince in fact, named Zhang Dinglai. From a young age, he was known for his profound kindness. While other princes practiced swordsmanship and military strategy, Zhang Dinglai spent his time in the fields with the peasants, helping them with their harvest. He would empty the royal granaries to feed the hungry during a famine, and use his own allowance to provide medicine for the sick. His philosophy was simple. The suffering of his people was his suffering. Their joy was his joy. He was gentle, compassionate, and deeply devoted to alleviating the pain he saw all around him. When his father, the king, passed away, Zhang Dinglai ascended the throne. He ruled with such wisdom and benevolence that his kingdom became a beacon of peace in a war-torn world. But he knew it was not enough. His small kingdom was an island of tranquility in an ocean of chaos. Beyond his borders, demons still roamed, and the neglect of the gods still caused floods, droughts, and plagues. The fundamental problem wasn't on earth. It was in heaven. One night, a vision came to him. He saw the suffering of the entire world, the endless cycle of death and rebirth, the pain etched on the faces of millions. He realized that being a good king to a few thousand people was a noble, but ultimately limited ambition. To truly end suffering, he needed to address the root cause. He needed to fix the broken system at the very top. And so, Zhang Dinglai made a decision that no one could understand. He abdicated his throne, gave away all his possessions, and said goodbye to the people he had sworn to protect. He walked out of his palace and headed for the remote, forbidding cliffs of the bright and fragrant mountain. He told his weeping court that he was going to seek the Tao, to cultivate himself, to understand the fundamental truths of the universe. His goal was no longer to rule a kingdom, but to find a way to save every living soul in existence. He was a mortal man, setting out on a quest to attain the wisdom and power of the gods, not for glory, but for the sake of all others. He had no idea of the trials that awaited him, the eons of meditation he would have to endure, or the 3,200 separate calamities he would have to face. He was just a good man who believed that order could be brought to the chaos, and he was willing to sacrifice everything to prove it. And that sacrifice began not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet decision. The prince, now a young man known for his kindness and wisdom, renounced his throne. He left the gilded halls of his palace, the silks and the servants, the power and the prestige. He walked away from a life of comfort that most people could only dream of and ventured into the wilderness. He sought out a place of solitude, a remote mountain cave where the world's noise could not reach him, a place where he could begin the arduous journey of self-cultivation. This wasn't some weekend retreat. This was a commitment on a scale that is almost impossible for us to comprehend. The goal was to attain the Tao, the fundamental underlying order of the universe. To do this, he had to understand suffering not just intellectually but viscerally. He had to understand desire, fear, anger, and attachment by transcending them completely. His path was one of meditation, of turning inward to conquer the universe within himself before he could ever hope to bring order to the one without. And this is where the calamities begin. When we hear the number 3,200 calamities, it sounds like a fairy tale exaggeration. But in Taoist and Buddhist cosmology, these aren't just random misfortunes. Each calamity or kalpa is an entire epoch, a world cycle lasting millions, even billions of years. Each one represents a specific trial, a cosmic test designed to challenge a single aspect of his being. Imagine living through an entire lifetime of an ordinary person. You experience joy, heartbreak, success, failure, love, and loss. Now imagine that entire lifetime is just 1 hour of one day of a single trial. And he had to face 3,200 of them. These weren't just tests of physical endurance. They were trials of the soul. He had to face calamities of the flesh. He endured lifetimes where he was born into unimaginable poverty, starving in desolate lands. He was born with crippling diseases, his body a prison of constant pain. He was hunted, tortured, and executed in countless brutal ways, experiencing every form of physical suffering the universe could conjure. Through it all, he had to maintain his compassion, to never let the pain turn into bitterness or hatred. He had to face calamities of the mind. He was thrust into positions of immense power, tempted by absolute authority, only to see his empires crumble to dust. He was a scholar who spent centuries pursuing a single truth, only to find it was a lie. He was betrayed by those he loved most. His trust shattered into a million pieces over and over again. He had to navigate mazes of illusion, where reality itself was a weapon used against him. Through it all, he had to maintain his clarity, his unwavering focus on the ultimate truth of the Tao. And he had to face calamities of the spirit. These were the most difficult. He had to watch civilizations he cherished descend into chaos and self-destruction, powerless to intervene. He had to make impossible choices where every outcome led to suffering, forced to choose the lesser of 1,000 evils. He was tempted by demons of despair, who whispered that his entire quest was meaningless, a fool's errand in a fundamentally chaotic universe. He had to stare into the abyss of absolute nothingness and not flinch. Through it all, he had to maintain his faith, his core belief that order was not only possible but necessary. For eons, this was his existence. A cycle of birth, trial, and death repeated thousands of times. With each calamity he overcame, his spiritual power grew. His understanding deepened. He was no longer just a mortal prince. He was becoming something more. He was forging himself in a cosmic fire, burning away every impurity, every weakness, every last shred of his ego, until only pure, unshakable virtue remained. It was during one of these periods of intense meditation, after he had already endured thousands of trials, that a new, far more immediate threat emerged. While the prince was focused on his internal cultivation, the external world had fallen into shadow. A great evil had arisen, a powerful demon who had also spent eons cultivating his own power, but for the opposite reason. Where the prince sought order, this demon craved chaos. Where the prince embodied compassion, this demon reveled in suffering. This wasn't some minor goblin or troublesome spirit. This was a being of immense cosmic power, a demon king who had devoured the souls of gods and mortals alike. He commanded a legion of monsters and ghosts, a tide of darkness that swept across the realms. He laid waste to the earth, enslaving humanity, and even launched an assault on the heavens, seeking to overthrow the celestial bureaucracy and install himself as the ultimate ruler of a universe remade in his own nightmarish image. The gods and immortals of heaven fought back, but they were outmatched. This demon was a master of dark arts, his power fueled by the very despair he created. For every god he struck down, his strength grew. The celestial armies were in disarray. The order of the cosmos, the very thing the prince was sacrificing everything to understand, was on the brink of total collapse. The universe was screaming, and deep in his mountain cave, the prince heard it. He awoke from his meditative trance, his consciousness spanning the realms. He saw the devastation. He saw the fear in the eyes of mortals and the desperation in the hearts of gods. He saw the demon king sitting on a throne of skulls, laughing as the universe burned. His long journey of non-interference was over. He had spent countless lifetimes learning, observing, and enduring. He had cultivated a power not for conquest, but for protection. He knew that true order wasn't a passive state. It was something that had to be defended. And so, the humble ascetic who had abandoned a tiny earthly kingdom now rose to defend all of existence. He descended from his mountain, no longer appearing as a simple man, but as a being radiating immense spiritual light. He faced the Demon King's army alone. The legions of monsters, creatures born of nightmare and shadow, charged at him. But they couldn't touch him. His virtue was a shield, his compassion a force that turned back their hatred upon themselves. The very air around him seemed to purify the land, calming the raging storms and healing the scorched earth. Finally, he stood before the Demon King himself. The demon was a mountain of muscle and rage, bristling with dark energy. He looked at the serene figure before him and laughed, mocking his peaceful demeanor. He unleashed his ultimate power, a maelstrom of destructive energy capable of shattering stars. But the prince didn't meet force with force. He didn't engage in a brutal slugfest. That was the demon's game. Instead, he met the cataclysmic attack with pure, unyielding wisdom. He demonstrated the higher truth of the Tao. He showed the demon that his power, born of hatred and destruction, was ultimately self-defeating. It was an unstable, chaotic energy that would inevitably consume itself. The prince's power, born of compassion and a desire for harmony, was aligned with the fundamental nature of the universe itself. It was eternal and inexhaustible. The battle was not one of swords and sorcery, but of philosophy and cosmic will. The demon's rage faltered, his attacks weakening as he was confronted by a truth he could not defeat. His power, his very existence, was a flaw in the fabric of reality, and the prince was the needle and thread poised to mend it. In a final brilliant flash of divine light, the prince defeated the demon, not by destroying him, but by neutralizing him, by reimposing the fundamental order of the universe over the demon's temporary chaos. He sealed the demon and his legions away in the depths of the earth, restoring peace to the realms. The mortals were saved. The heavens were secured. The universe breathed a collective sigh of relief. And for the first time, the collective gaze of every god, immortal and celestial being turned towards the humble ascetic from the kingdom of pure felicity and majestic heavenly lights and ornaments. He had not sought power or glory. He had simply done what was necessary. He had faced the ultimate agent of chaos and through virtue alone, had restored the balance. They realized they weren't just looking at a powerful immortal. They were looking at a perfect embodiment of heavenly principle. They were looking at a candidate for a throne that had long been vacant, the throne of the supreme ruler of all heaven. And so the great celestial bureaucracy, the pantheon of gods, Buddhas, and immortals, all turned their gaze to this one being. But to understand the weight of that gaze, you have to understand the state of heaven at the time. It was a mess. A glorious, powerful, shimmering golden mess. For eons, there had been no single, unifying leader. The throne sat empty not because no one was worthy, but because the very concept of a single ruler had been lost to time. The original primordial gods, the ones who had literally shaped the cosmos from chaos, had long since faded, their work done, their immense power dissolving back into the fabric of the universe itself. What was left was a collection of extraordinarily powerful beings. Think of it like a boardroom filled with alpha CEOs, each one a titan of their own industry, but with no one in charge of the whole company. There was the god of war, whose very breath could start a battle. The goddess of the moon, cool and distant, who controlled the tides of fate. The dragon kings of the four seas, ancient and proud, who answered to no one. They were all immensely powerful, but they were also selfish. They bickered. They formed factions. They pursued their own agendas. The mortal world below suffered from their whims. A drought here, a flood there. A plague born from a god's momentary peak. The celestial order was fraying. The universe, which craves balance above all else, was beginning to groan under the strain of this divine anarchy. The Tao, the fundamental, ineffable principle that governs all things, could feel this imbalance. And so a decree, not from any single god, but from the cosmos itself, rippled through the three realms. A competition would be held. A series of great and terrible trials, known as the heavenly culpas, would be set. Whoever could pass these trials would not simply win the throne. They would prove they were the physical manifestation of the order and compassion needed to occupy it. The prize wasn't just power. It was the mandate of heaven itself. Suddenly, the chaos in heaven had a focus. The bickering turned to ambitious scheming. From every corner of the cosmos, the contenders emerged. Imagine the lineup. From the darkest pits of the netherworld came a demon king of unimaginable power, a being who had consumed stars and whose ambition was to remake all of creation in his own fiery image. He saw the throne as the ultimate conquest. From the highest peaks of the celestial mountains descended a martial god, a warrior so skilled that his spear could shatter nebulas. He believed that only through absolute strength and discipline could order be maintained. He saw the throne as his right, earned through a billion battles. There were others, of course, sages whose wisdom could unravel the secrets of time, elemental spirits who commanded the very building blocks of reality. Each one was a legend. Each one was a universe of power unto themselves. And then there was Zhang Byron, the former prince. He had no grand army. He commanded no legion of demons. His only weapon was the boundless compassion he had cultivated over 200 million years. While the others saw a prize to be won, he saw a duty to be fulfilled. He saw the suffering in the mortal realm, the chaos in the heavens, and he knew, with the certainty of a perfectly still heart, that he had to try. Not for glory, not for power, but for the sake of all beings. The first trial was announced. It wasn't a test of strength, not directly. It was a test of will and of virtue. A monstrous beast, a Cheongqi, had been let loose in the heavens. Now, a Cheongqi is not your average monster. It is a creature of pure malevolent paradox. It has the body of a tiger, the wings of a bat, and it feeds on righteousness. It seeks out the most honorable and loyal people and devours them. It finds the most wicked and treacherous liars and rewards them with gifts. It is a living embodiment of injustice, a creature that actively works to unravel the moral fabric of the universe. The trial was simple: subdue the Chonchi and restore justice. The martial god was the first to try. He descended from the clouds like a meteor, his spear glowing with righteous fire. He fought the beast for 7 days and 7 nights. The heavens shook with the force of their blows. Mountains were leveled, rivers boiled away. But the more righteously he fought, the stronger the Chonchi became. It fed on his honor, on his unbending sense of duty. Every blow he landed with righteous fury only made the beast more powerful, its hide tougher, its claws sharper. He was forced to retreat, his spirit shaken, his spear arm trembling. How can you defeat a monster that feeds on the very virtue you used to fight it? Next, the Demon King approached. He didn't fight. He laughed. He saw the Chonchi not as an enemy, but as a kindred spirit. He praised its wickedness, celebrated its love for chaos. He offered it a place by his side, to be his general in a new order where treachery was rewarded and honor was a fool's game. The Chonchi for a moment seemed tempted, but the beast was a creature of pure, undiluted principle, even if that principle was evil. Could not be bargained with. It could not be allied with. Simply was. It saw the Demon King's ambition as just another form of order, another set of rules, and it lashed out, forcing the Demon King back with a snarl of cosmic disgust. Finally, it was Zhang Byron's turn. He approached the snarling, chaotic beast not with a weapon, but with his hands empty. He didn't radiate righteous fury or cunning ambition. He radiated nothing. An emptiness. A perfect, calm stillness that the Chonchi had never encountered. It lunged, claws extended, ready to feast on the virtue it sensed within him. But as it got closer, it found none. Not because he wasn't virtuous, but because his virtue was so complete, so selfless that it had no ego. It wasn't his virtue. It was just virtue. It was like trying to bite the sky. Zhang Byron didn't fight back. He didn't try to reason with it. He simply began to chant. He spoke of the suffering of the loyal man the beast had devoured. He spoke of the grief of his family. He didn't condemn the beast. He didn't judge it. He simply laid bare the consequences of its nature, the ripples of pain it sent through the tapestry of the cosmos. He spoke of the liar the beast had rewarded, and the chaos that liar then spread, the trust he shattered, the lives he ruined. He held up a mirror to the beast, not of its actions, but of the suffering that flowed from them. The monstrous Chonchi, for the first time in its existence, hesitated. It was a creature of injustice, but it had never been confronted with the pure, unadulterated sorrow that injustice creates. Zhang Byron's compassion wasn't a weapon. It was a solvent. It began to dissolve the very conceptual foundation of the monster. The beast roared, not in anger, but in confusion and pain. Its paradoxical nature began to tear itself apart. How could it exist in a universe where its actions caused such profound, quiet sadness? It began to shrink, its form flickering, the malevolence leaking out of it like air from a punctured lung. It wasn't defeated. It was understood. And in being perfectly understood, it became undone. It dissolved into a puff of black smoke, leaving behind a single pure white pearl on the celestial floor. A tear of cosmic sorrow solidified. Zhang Byron had passed the first trial. He hadn't used strength or cunning. He had used a power far greater, empathy. The other gods watched in stunned silence. This wasn't the kind of power they understood. But as he bent to pick up the pearl, a cold voice echoed across the heavens, a voice dripping with ancient malice. It was the Demon King. And he wasn't impressed. He was enraged. "You soothed a wild pet," the voice boomed, shaking the very stars. "A parlor trick. You think compassion will rule a universe of fire and shadow? You have shown your weakness, little prince. While you were singing lullabies to a monster, I was preparing for a real war." And as he spoke, the sky behind him began to tear open. Not a crack, but a vast, bleeding wound in the fabric of reality. And from that wound, an army began to pour forth. Legions of demons, twisted spirits, and forgotten nightmares, their numbers blotting out the light of distant galaxies. The Demon King hadn't been trying to win the trial. He had been using it as a distraction. His goal was never to win the throne. It was to take it. The heavenly Kalpas were just a game. This was the reality, an invasion, and the entire celestial realm was caught completely, utterly off guard. The illusion shattered. The grand spectacle of the heavenly Kalpas dissolved into a nightmare. What the gods had perceived as shimmering portals of trial were, in reality, beachheads, gates, rifts torn open into the darkest, most violent corners of the cosmos. And from them poured an army that had no place in the celestial realm. A tide of shadow and malice, of twisted forms and burning eyes, a legion born from cosmic rage, and at its head was the challenger himself, his celestial armor now seeming like a mockery, a disguise for the abyssal darkness that fueled him. The southern gate of heaven, guarded by the heavenly king of growth, was the first to fall. It wasn't a battle, it was an erasure. The celestial guards, masters of divine combat, were swatted aside like insects. The king himself, a being of immense power, met the challenger's charge and was thrown back, his jade pagoda cracking, his spirit reeling from a single contemptuous blow. The warning bells of heaven began to toll, their frantic, desperate chimes echoing through palaces that had only known the sound of serene music for millennia. Disbelief curdled into terror. The gods and immortals who had been spectators moments before were now scrambling for their weapons, their composure, their very lives. From his dragon throne in the cloud palace of the Golden Arches, the Jade Emperor watched his perfect kingdom burn. The serene pools that reflected the cosmos now showed scenes of slaughter. The celestial gardens, where peaches of immortality grew, were trampled under the iron tread of demonic foot soldiers. He was a being of profound wisdom, of unimaginable spiritual cultivation. He had meditated for eons, understood the fundamental principles of the Tao, and governed with a compassion that balanced the entire universal order. But this was not a problem that could be solved with wisdom. This was brute force. This was a violation. He rose from his throne, his voice, usually calm as a mountain lake, now thundering with the force of a supernova. He issued commands. The 4 heavenly kings were to consolidate their forces at the major gates. The 28 constellations were to form a defensive perimeter around the central palaces. Neza, the 3rd Lotus Prince, was to lead a vanguard of the fiercest warrior gods to slow the enemy's advance. Every decree he issued was a desperate attempt to plug 1,000 breaches in a dam that was already collapsing. The celestial army was powerful, yes, but it was an army of peacekeepers, of guardians. It was not prepared for a war of annihilation against an enemy that fought with a nihilistic fury they couldn't comprehend. The challenger, the usurper, was a living calamity. He moved through the celestial ranks not as a general leading from the rear, but as the tip of the spear, a force of nature personified. He wielded a weapon that seemed to drink the light from the air, a blade forged from a fallen star, and with every swing he unmade a piece of heaven. He cut down gods whose legends were sung in the mortal realm. He shattered divine artifacts that had existed since the dawn of time. He wasn't just conquering heaven, he was blaspheming against its very existence. Li Jing, the pagoda-bearing heavenly king and father of Neza, rallied his troops for a desperate counterattack near the Sea of Stars. He was one of heaven's most respected commanders, a strategist without peer. He unleashed his divine pagoda, a weapon capable of capturing any demon, ghost, or errant god. It flew towards the usurper, growing to the size of a mountain, intent on sealing him away forever. The usurper just looked up and laughed. It was a sound that cracked the very firmament. He didn't dodge. He didn't block. He simply met the descending mountain of divine power with a single outstretched fist. The impact didn't make a sound. It was a silent, crushing explosion of pure force. The pagoda, a treasure of heaven, shattered into a million pieces of shimmering dust. Li Jing coughed up golden blood, his spirit almost extinguished by the feedback. The usurper hadn't even paused in his stride. He was on a direct path to the Cloud Palace, to the Dragon Throne, to the Jade Emperor. This wasn't just a military invasion. It was a personal challenge, a duel for the mandate of heaven itself. The reports flooding into the throne room grew more and more dire. The eastern quadrant was overrun. The western armies were in full retreat. Neza's vanguard had been scattered, the great warrior himself wounded and forced to fall back. The celestial banners, embroidered with golden dragons and celestial cranes, were torn and trampled in the star-dusted streets. Hope was a dying ember. The gods looked to the Jade Emperor, their faces a mixture of fear and pleading. He was their ruler, the center of their universe. He was supposed to have an answer. And in that moment, the Jade Emperor understood the true nature of this test. It was not a test of his ability to command armies or govern a bureaucracy. He had proven that for ages. This was a test of his very essence. The usurper's power came from rage, from ambition, from a desire to dominate and destroy. It was a raw primal energy. The Jade Emperor's power, cultivated over countless lifetimes, came from peace, from balance, from an understanding of the Tao. It was the power of creation, not destruction. He had been trying to fight a fire with water, but the blaze was too immense. He couldn't just extinguish it. He had to become a greater fire. He looked at the chaos reflected in the polished floors of his throne room. He saw the fear in the eyes of his most trusted ministers. He heard the distant screams of his people. He had spent 1,750 kalpas, each one lasting over 129,000 years, cultivating his spiritual perfection. He had endured suffering, practiced austerity, and achieved a state of being so profound that he could command the very fabric of reality. He was the august personage, the most venerable sage. But before all of that, long, long ago, he had been a prince, a mortal who had given up his kingdom to save his people from suffering. He had learned then that a true ruler does not send others to face the darkness. A true ruler stands before it. Slowly, deliberately, he walked down the steps from his dragon throne. The long, ornate robes of the celestial sovereign seemed to ripple and change, replaced by the simpler, more functional armor of a warrior sage. The intricate crown of his office dissolved, leaving his long hair to flow freely. He held out his hand, and from the ether, a simple jade-hilted sword materialized in his grasp. It was a weapon that hadn't been drawn in eons, a blade not of conquest but of judgment. The ministers and gods in the throne room fell silent, their terror replaced by a sudden breathtaking awe. The air itself grew heavy, charged with an ancient, dormant power that was finally awakening. The Jade Emperor turned his gaze towards the palace gates, through which the sounds of battle grew ever closer. His expression was no longer that of a beleaguered king. It was calm. It was absolute. The time for ruling was over. The time for fighting had begun. The demon horde crashed against the palace defenders like a foul tide. Twisted bodies, all claws and fangs and burning eyes, swarmed over the barricades. The air, once filled with the scent of plum blossoms and incense, now reeked of sulfur and blood. For every demon a soldier struck down, two more seemed to take its place, their guttural roars drowning out the cries of the wounded. This was not a battle. It was an extermination. And at the heart of this storm of chaos stood the prince, Zhang Byron. He moved not like a warrior, but like a calligrapher's brush stroke, fluid, precise, and with an unshakable purpose. His sword was not a simple piece of forged steel. It was an extension of his will, glowing with a soft golden light that cut through the demonic miasma. Where other soldiers hacked and slashed with desperate fury, the prince simply flowed. A sidestep here, a parry there. His blade would flash, and a demon would dissolve into black smoke, its screech of rage turning into a whisper of oblivion. He wasn't fighting them with muscle. He was unmaking them with principle. The principles of the Tao, of balance and order, were anathema to these creatures of pure chaos. Every move he made was a statement against their existence. The Demon King, a towering behemoth of obsidian flesh and molten rage, watched from a distance. He saw his legions, who had torn apart entire armies, falter and break against this one solitary figure. This was an insult. With a roar that cracked the very stones of the courtyard, the Demon King charged. The ground shook with each of his thunderous steps. His weapon was a colossal axe, forged in the heart of a dying star, etched with runes that wept shadows. The remaining demons scrambled away from his path, their primal fear of their master overriding their bloodlust. The world seemed to shrink, focusing on two figures, the mountain of hate and the pillar of calm. The Demon King swung his axe, a black comet arcing through the air, aimed at erasing the prince from existence. Zhang Byron didn't try to meet the blow. He couldn't. Instead, he moved, becoming like water, flowing around the immense force. The axe slammed into the ground, shattering the marble courtyard and sending spiderwebs of cracks across the plaza. The shockwave alone threw soldiers 20 feet through the air. But the prince was already moving, his own sword a needle of light against the demon's thick hide. The blade struck, and for the first time the demon king felt pain. It was not a deep wound, more like a searing sting, but it was enough. It was a violation. He bellowed, a sound of pure fury, and swung again, faster this time, a whirlwind of destructive rage. The prince was forced back, his calm defense now a desperate dance of survival. He parried a blow that would have split a mountain, the impact jarring him to the bone. He dodged a backhand that shattered a massive stone lion as if it were glass. He was outmatched. In sheer raw power, he was a candle against a supernova. The Demon King knew it. He pressed his advantage, his laughter a grinding metallic sound. "You are nothing, little prince," the demon snarled, his voice like grinding stones. "Your people will be my slaves. Your temples will be my latrines. Your precious balance will be replaced by the beautiful, simple truth of pain and despair." Another blow sent the prince flying. He crashed against a pillar, his sword clattering from his grasp. His vision swam. He could feel his ribs cracking, the taste of blood in his mouth. The Demon King loomed over him, raising his axe for the final strike. In that moment, suspended between breaths, Zhang Byron looked past the monster. He saw his people fighting and dying. He saw the fear in their eyes, but also the hope they placed in him. He saw the kingdom his father had built, a place of learning and peace, now being torn apart. And he felt anger, a hot, burning rage that threatened to consume him. He wanted to tear the Demon King apart, to answer violence with greater violence. But then the teachings of his masters echoed in his mind. The lessons of the Tao. Anger was a fire, but an uncontrolled fire burns everything, including the one who wields it. Power was not in rage. Power was not in destruction. That was the demon's way, the way of chaos. He closed his eyes. He let the anger go. He let the fear go. He let the pain go. He let go of his desire to win, his desperation to survive. He let go of everything. And in that absolute emptiness, he found everything. He was no longer just Zhang Byron, a prince of a mortal kingdom. He was a part of the wind that whipped through the courtyard. He was a part of the solid stone beneath him. He was a part of the light of the heavens above. He had touched the very essence of the Tao. When he opened his eyes, they were no longer brown. They were pools of pure liquid gold. The Demon King hesitated, the axe held high. He felt a change. The air itself had grown heavy, not with menace, but with an authority so absolute it was terrifying. The prince slowly rose to his feet. He did not retrieve his sword. He didn't need it. He simply raised his hand. From his palm, a light began to glow. Not the soft light from his sword, but a brilliant, blinding radiance. It was the color of the rising sun, the warmth of the first day of spring, the purity of a flawless diamond. It was the light of creation itself. It held no anger, no malice, no hatred. It was simply order. It was the fundamental truth of the universe pushing back against the lie of chaos. "Your time is over," the prince said, and his voice was not his own. It was the whisper of the wind, the rumble of the earth, the harmony of the stars. It was the voice of the Tao itself. The Demon King screamed, a sound of pure, undiluted terror, and swung his axe. But the blow never landed. The light washed over him. It did not burn. It did not tear. Simply unraveled him. The runes on his axe faded. The shadows that clung to him evaporated. His obsidian flesh turned to gray dust, and the fire in his eyes cooled to embers. He looked down at his hands as they dissolved into motes of light, his expression one of utter disbelief. His reign of terror, his eons of conquest, his entire existence was being quietly and calmly erased by a power he could not comprehend. And then he was gone. The light pulsed outwards, a gentle wave across the entire palace. Every demon it touched simply ceased to be. Their chaotic energy returned to the neutral fabric of the cosmos. The roars of battle were replaced by a profound, echoing silence. The wounded found their pain easing. The fires that raged on the palace walls sputtered and died. The sky, which had been choked with black clouds, cleared, revealing the serene blue of the heavens. The soldiers and the people of the kingdom stared, their weapons hanging limp in their hands. They looked at their prince, who stood alone in the center of the ruined courtyard, bathed in a celestial glow that was now slowly fading. He was no longer just their prince. He was their savior. He was something more. They fell to their knees, not in fealty to a king, but in reverence to a miracle. Zhang Byron looked at his hands. He felt the universe humming within him. He had saved his kingdom, but he understood now that this was just one small corner of existence. There were other worlds, other realms plagued by far greater chaos. His duty was not just to this throne, to this single plot of land. He had touched the divine, and in doing so, had accepted a responsibility that spanned all of creation. To truly master this power, to truly serve the Tao and bring ultimate balance, he could not remain a king of men. He had to walk a different path. He looked at his kneeling people, then at the heavens, and made a choice that would change the destiny of gods and mortals forever. He would leave it all behind: his crown, his palace, his name. He would venture into the great wilderness, into the bright and fragrant cliff, to cultivate this power, to meditate on the nature of reality, until he was worthy of the truth he had just discovered. And so the Prince Zhang Renren walked away. He didn't look back. To look back would be to give power to the past, to the life of comfort and certainty he was abandoning. Each step took him further from the silken sheets and the gilded halls, and deeper into a world of raw, untamed truth. He walked until the memory of his kingdom was a faint whisper on the wind, until his royal robes were tattered, and his feet were calloused by the hard earth. He was no longer a prince. He was a seeker, a pilgrim on the ultimate path. His destination was a place spoken of only in hushed tones, a place that existed more in spirit than in geography: the bright and fragrant cliff. This was no ordinary mountain. It was a spire of rock that pierced the heavens, a place where the veil between the mortal world and the cosmic realms was thin. It was said that the mountain itself was alive, that its stones hummed with the energy of creation, and its caves held echoes of the universe's first breath. Here, amidst the swirling mists and the ancient silent trees, he would begin his work. He found a simple cave, bare and cold, and this became his new palace. The hard stone floor was his throne. The wind whistling through the cracks was his courtly music. He had no subjects, no armies, no wealth. He had only his own mind, his own spirit, and the monumental task he had set for himself: to cultivate the Tao. Now, cultivating the Tao isn't like learning a skill or studying a book. It is a process of unimaginable difficulty and duration. It is about stripping away everything that makes you you. Your ego, your desires, your fears, your very sense of self. It's about dissolving your individual consciousness back into the great, universal consciousness from which all things spring. It is a journey measured not in years, or even lifetimes, but in kalpas. And what, you might ask, is a kalpa? Try to imagine this. Picture a mountain, a solid block of granite 4 miles wide and 4 miles high. Every 100 years, a celestial being flies past and gently brushes the top of that mountain with a feather-light silk scarf. A single delicate touch, once a century. A kalpa is the length of time it would take for that silk scarf to completely wear that mountain down to nothing. It is a span of time so vast it makes the age of our own planet look like the blink of an eye. And the prince, in his lonely cave, endured one. He sat in meditation as empires rose and fell on the plains below. He felt the continents shift, the mountains groan and rise, the oceans recede and surge. He witnessed entire species evolve, flourish, and fade into fossilized memory. Through it all, he remained, a still point in a turning world, letting go of his attachments, purifying his spirit, and deepening his understanding. He passed through his first great trial, a period of time that would later be calculated to be over 3 million years long. But one was not enough. To truly grasp the nature of reality, to become a being worthy of saving all others, he needed to go further. He needed to experience the totality of existence again and again. He embarked on another kalpa, and another after that. With each cycle, he faced a new trial. These weren't just tests of patience. They were profound, soul-shattering ordeals. He faced the demon of doubt, a creature born from his own mind that whispered poison into his ear, telling him his quest was pointless, that he was a fool for abandoning his kingdom, that oblivion was the only certainty. He conquered it with unwavering faith. He faced the seductive illusion of power, a vision of himself as a supreme conqueror, a god-king who could bend all of reality to his will for his own glory. He conquered it with humility. He faced the abyss of despair, witnessing endless cycles of suffering, cruelty, and death, a vision so bleak it could extinguish any light. He conquered it with boundless compassion. His cultivation was not a selfish act. It wasn't about personal enlightenment alone. In his meditative state, his consciousness expanded beyond the cave, beyond the mountain. He reached out to the world. He would send his spiritual energy to heal the sick, to guide lost travelers through storms, to give strength to the weak and hope to the downtrodden. He battled plagues, calmed floods, and fought off droughts, not with a physical body, but with the pure force of his benevolent will. He was saving the world one soul at a time, even as he sat motionless on a stone floor. He passed through 3,200 of these trials, each one a kalpa, each one a lifetime of the universe. Do the math and the numbers become staggering, almost meaningless to the human mind. He meditated for a length of time approaching 10 billion years. He watched our sun ignite. He watched other suns die. He saw galaxies collide in a silent, slow-motion dance of cosmic fire. He experienced the birth, life, and heat-death of countless universes, learning from each one, absorbing its wisdom, its triumphs, its tragedies. And through it all he was transformed. The man who was once Prince Zhang Renren was gone, burned away in the crucible of time and trial. His physical body dissolved, replaced by a form made of pure golden light. His consciousness was no longer confined to a single being, but was now intertwined with the fabric of reality itself. He had achieved what he set out to do. He had become a perfected immortal, a being of infinite compassion and immeasurable power. He was now known as the pure August Jade Emperor. He had finally attained the power to save all beings from their suffering. He opened his eyes, and for the first time in billions of years, a gentle peace settled over the cosmos. The Tao was in balance. His work was complete. But in the darkest corners of the multiverse, something had taken notice. An ancient, malevolent force, a being that thrived on chaos and feasted on destruction, had been watching this new, brilliant light emerge in the cosmos. This entity, a demon of immense power and insatiable ambition, saw this new balance not as a victory for life, but as an intolerable offense to its own nature. While the Jade Emperor had spent eons cultivating benevolence, this demon had spent that same time cultivating hatred, amassing an army of horrors from the nightmares of 1,000 dead worlds. And just as the Jade Emperor achieved his ultimate state of perfection, just as he was ready to usher in an age of universal peace, this great evil chose its moment to strike. It tore a hole in the fabric of reality, unleashing its demonic legions upon the heavens and the earth, threatening to devour all of creation, to undo the work of 10 billion years, and to plunge everything and everyone into an eternity of darkness. The universe had found its savior, but in the same breath, it had revealed its destroyer. The Demon King was a walking apocalypse, a being of pure, unadulterated malice, born from the universe's darkest impulse. Where he walked, stars withered and died. His laughter was the sound of grinding tectonic plates, and his breath was a solar wind that scoured life from entire worlds. The gods of heaven, the ancient and powerful beings who had maintained order for eons, were frozen, not just by fear, but by a chilling absolute certainty of their own inadequacy. Their most potent weapons, their most profound spells, were like pebbles thrown against a tidal wave of oblivion. This was not a foe to be fought. This was an extinction event. And then, stepping forward from the ranks of the terrified deities, came the crown prince. He was still young by immortal standards, but the calm in his eyes was older than the mountains. He carried no grand weapon, wore no impenetrable armor. He was armed only with the quiet strength he had cultivated over 200 million years of silent meditation and selfless service. He had faced the demons within himself for ages. Now he would face the demon that stood before all creation. The Demon King roared, a sound that cracked the very firmament of heaven, and lunged. The prince did not meet force with force. He moved like water, like wind. He yielded, redirected, and flowed around the demon's cataclysmic attacks. The Demon King shattered a nearby moon with a single blow intended for the prince. The prince, unharmed, simply reappeared 100 miles away, his expression unchanged. The demon unleashed a torrent of cosmic fire that could boil oceans. The prince raised a hand, and the flames parted around him as if encountering an unseen shield of pure tranquility. This was not a battle of strength. It was a battle of principles. The demon was chaos incarnate, the furious, screaming energy of a universe tearing itself apart. The prince was order, the silent, unshakable gravity that holds galaxies together. For 3,200 rounds they fought, their conflict spilling across dimensions and through the fabric of time itself. Reality became their arena. They dueled on the event horizons of black holes, their blows echoing in the silent vacuum of space. They clashed atop nebulae, their energies causing new stars to be born and old ones to collapse in brilliant supernovae. The assembled gods could only watch in awe and terror. They saw the Demon King's power growing with every failed attack, feeding on his own rage, his frustration turning into a weapon of unimaginable destructive potential. He was a wildfire, and every attempt to fight him was just more fuel. They saw the prince, however, never striking in anger. Every block, every parry, every movement was precise, measured, and devoid of malice. He was not trying to destroy the demon. He was trying to contain it. He was trying to understand it. But the demon was relentless. It was the embodiment of a simple, terrible idea: that nothing was better than something, that the ultimate peace was the silence of non-existence. It began to adapt, its chaotic nature twisting to counter the prince's perfect order. It learned to predict his movements, to counter his serene defenses with attacks born of pure, unpredictable insanity. A blow finally landed. It wasn't a physical strike, but a psychic one. The demon forced into the prince's mind the collective suffering of every being that had ever lived and died. The pain of a trillion souls, the fear, the loss, the despair. It was a poison meant to break the spirit of a god, to drown him in the very sorrow he had sought to heal. For a moment the prince faltered. The light around him dimmed. The Demon King loomed over him, ready for the final universe-ending strike. And in that moment, the prince did not push the pain away. He did not fight it. He accepted it. He absorbed all of it, the entirety of cosmic suffering, into his own being. He had spent his life cultivating compassion, and this was the ultimate test. He did not just pity the suffering. He became one with it, and in doing so, he transformed it. The pain became understanding. The fear became empathy. The despair became a profound, unshakable resolve. He looked up at the Demon King, and for the first time, the demon felt something it had never known: fear. Because the prince's eyes no longer held the calm of a quiet pond. They held the infinite, crushing gravity of a supermassive black hole. He had not just mastered order, he had mastered chaos by accepting it. He raised his hand, and from his palm a light bloomed. It was not a violent, explosive light, but a quiet, inexorable one. It was the light of creation itself, the fundamental force of being, the universe's simple, stubborn desire to exist. The light enveloped the Demon King. There was no scream, no explosion. The demon's chaotic energy, its rage, its hatred, was not destroyed. It was pacified, unraveled. The threads of its being were gently pulled apart and returned to the cosmic loom. Its malice neutralized, its existence integrated back into the whole. The great destroyer was gone, not with a bang but with a whisper. Silence descended upon the heavens. The universe, which had been holding its breath, exhaled in a collective sigh of relief. The gods, the immortals, the celestial beings, stared at the lone figure of the crown prince, floating in the void where the apocalypse had just been unmade. They saw the wisdom of 300 million years in his eyes. They saw the power that did not seek to dominate but to harmonize. They saw the compassion that could absorb all the pain in the world and turn it into strength. There was no debate. There was no election. There was only a spontaneous, unanimous, and absolute realization. The previous ruler of heaven, the Yuan Tianzuan, the primeval lord of heaven, stepped forward. He and the other two of the three pure ones, the highest beings in the Taoist pantheon, bowed. It was a gesture of profound respect, an acknowledgement that a new higher authority had revealed itself. One by one, every god, every immortal, every celestial general and minister knelt, not in submission to a conqueror, but in reverence for a savior. In that moment, by the silent, universal consent of all divine beings, the crown prince of the kingdom of pure felicity and majestic heavenly lights and ornaments ceased to be. He had ascended. He was now the Yu Huang, the Jade Emperor, the supreme ruler of all heaven and earth. But his work was far from over. Saving the universe from a single great threat was one thing. Governing it was another. The celestial court was in disarray. The bureaucracy that managed the cycles of life, death, karma, and reincarnation had been shattered by the conflict. The mortal world below was in chaos, its natural laws thrown into flux by the cosmic battle. The Jade Emperor looked out upon the infinite expanse of his new domain, not with the triumph of a warrior, but with the weary determination of a leader facing an impossible task. He had defeated the ultimate embodiment of chaos. Now he had to confront something far more insidious, far more persistent: the endless, grinding, day-to-day messiness of existence itself. The throne was his, but the crown was heavier than a dying star. His greatest challenge had not just ended, it was just beginning. The Jade Emperor discovered that the true nature of power wasn't a single glorious strike of a celestial sword, but the infinite, painstaking placement of every single stone in the cosmic mosaic. His throne was not a seat of rest, but the epicenter of a universe in constant, chaotic motion. Every sunrise brought a fresh tide of petitions, 1,000 new disputes, 1,000,000 prayers whispered from the mortal realm. The ink on his brush never dried. The scroll of heavenly affairs never ended. To manage this infinite complexity, he didn't rule alone. He ruled through a system so vast, so intricate, it mirrored the imperial courts of the human emperors he watched over, but on a scale that defied imagination. This was the celestial bureaucracy, the divine government of everything. Imagine, if you can, a ministry for every conceivable aspect of existence. The Ministry of Thunder, commanded by stern-faced gods who dispatched lightning to punish the wicked. The Ministry of Water, overseeing every ocean, river, and drop of rain, presided over by the powerful dragon kings. There was a Ministry of Fire, a Ministry of Time, a Ministry of Plagues, and even a Ministry of 1,001 miscellaneous celestial tasks. Every god, every immortal, every spirit had a role, a rank, a responsibility. They were the celestial governors, the divine functionaries, the cosmic civil servants. And at the head of it all, signing off on every promotion, reviewing every report, and settling every interdepartmental squabble, was the Jade Emperor. His court was a dazzling and often deafening assembly of the most powerful beings in creation, all vying for his attention, his favor, his judgment. But his oversight wasn't limited to the grand and the mighty. It reached into the most humble corners of the mortal world. Consider the seemingly minor deity known as Zeus, the kitchen god. In virtually every home in China, a small shrine or a simple paper image was placed above the stove. This was Zeus' post. His job was to sit, unseen, and observe everything that happened within that household for an entire year. He was the celestial spy in the heart of the family, noting every argument, every act of kindness, every secret whispered when the family thought they were alone. And once a year, on the eve of the Lunar New Year, the kitchen god would ascend to heaven to deliver his annual report directly to the Jade Emperor. The fate of the family for the coming year, their luck, their wealth, their health, hung on this single report. This led to a fascinating mortal tradition. On the day of the kitchen god's departure, families would offer him sweet, sticky foods like honey or glutinous rice cakes. The idea was twofold. Either the delicious offerings would put him in a good mood and encourage a favorable report, or more cynically, the sticky candy would glue his mouth shut, preventing him from saying anything bad at all. It was a small human act of bribery aimed at the highest court in the universe, a testament to how deeply the Jade Emperor's administration was believed to permeate every aspect of life. This was the Jade Emperor's rule, a system of cosmic checks and balances. But he was more than just a manager. He was an innovator and architect of order, and one of his most famous acts was born from a desire to bring a new kind of order to the world below. He saw that mortals lived and died without a proper way to measure the passage of years. Time was a formless river, and he decided to give it banks. He would create a cycle, a zodiac, named after 12 animals. But which 12? And in what order? To be fair, he declared a great race. The first 12 animals to cross a mighty, fast-flowing river and reach the gates of his palace would be immortalized in the celestial calendar. The news spread like wildfire through the animal kingdom. On the day of the race, the riverbank was a chaotic scene of fur, scales, and feathers. The cat and the rat at the time were the best of friends. Neither were strong swimmers, so they struck a deal with the powerful, kind-hearted ox. The ox agreed to carry them across on his broad back. As they neared the other side, the finish line in sight, the rat was overcome with ambition. In a moment of shocking betrayal, he shoved the unsuspecting cat into the churning water. Then, just as the ox was about to step onto the bank and claim first place, the rat scurried down his nose and leaped to the shore, becoming the first animal to arrive. The ox, ever humble, accepted second place. This act of treachery is why, to this day, cats despise rats with a burning passion. Soon after, the ferocious and mighty tiger burst from the water, shaking his striped coat. He had been powerful enough to fight the current, but it had slowed him down and he took third place. Not far behind came the rabbit, who hadn't swum at all. Clever and nimble, he had hopped across a series of stepping stones and a floating log, securing fourth place with agility rather than brute force. Then, a shadow fell over the finish line. The Jade Emperor and the other gods looked up to see the magnificent dragon descending from the sky. The Emperor was surprised. "You can fly," he said. "Why are you not first?" The dragon, a noble creature, explained that he had stopped on his way to a village suffering from a drought. He had to make rain for them before he could continue his journey. His compassion had cost him the lead, but earned him the respect of all, and he was granted the fifth position. As the dragon landed, a sound of hoofbeats was heard. The horse was galloping towards the finish line. But just as he was about to cross, a snake slithered out from where it had been hiding in the grass around the horse's hoof. The horse was so startled he reared back in fright, and the cunning snake darted ahead to claim sixth place, leaving the shaken horse to take seventh. A little while later, three figures were seen in the middle of the river, working together. The goat, the monkey, and the rooster had found a raft. The rooster had crowed to find it, the monkey had cleared it of weeds, and the goat, a steady presence, guided it through the current. Their teamwork impressed the Jade Emperor, and he awarded them 8th, 9th, and 10th place, respectively. The 11th animal to arrive was the dog. The Emperor was again surprised. "You are one of the best swimmers," he noted. "Why are you so late?" The dog, shaking water from his fur, sheepishly admitted that the river water had been so clean and refreshing, he couldn't resist stopping for a long bath and a bit of a play. His joyful nature had made him lose track of time, but he happily accepted 11th place. Finally, just as the Jade Emperor was about to close the gates, a loud oinking was heard. The pig trotted up last but not least. "What took you so long?" the Emperor asked. The pig explained quite simply that he had gotten hungry halfway through the race, stopped for a large meal, and then promptly fallen asleep for a nap. His simple, honest indulgence earned him the 12th and final spot in the zodiac. And so the order was set. The rat, the ox, the tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. The Jade Emperor had not just hosted a race, he had created a cosmic clockwork. He had taken the wild, chaotic spirit of the animal kingdom and woven it into the very fabric of time. Each year would now have a character, a personality, a destiny shaped by the animal that represented it. His judgment wasn't just about punishing evil or rewarding good. It was about creating the fundamental structures that governed reality. He was no longer just the ruler of heaven. He was the author of time itself, his decree written in the turning of the years, a cycle that would forever shape the fate of every mortal born on the earth below. But this grand celestial clockwork wasn't merely for tracking seasons or celebrating birthdays. It was the framework for a far more profound system, a cosmic administration of unimaginable scale. For every soul born under one of the 12 signs, a file was opened in the celestial archives. Every action, every word, every thought was meticulously recorded by unseen scribes, deities whose sole purpose was to observe the mortal realm. The Jade Emperor, having set time in motion, now had to manage the consequences of every second that ticked by. He was the CEO of a divine corporation with billions of employees and even more clients, and its business was the business of karma. To manage this, he constructed a bureaucracy so vast and intricate it would make any earthly government look like a child's lemonade stand. Heaven was organized into ministries and departments, each overseeing a specific aspect of existence. There was a ministry of thunder, tasked with punishing mortals who had committed unforgivable sins. A ministry of fire, a ministry of plagues, and a ministry of water, whose officials, the Dragon Kings, had to petition the Emperor for the exact time and amount of every single rainfall. There was even a celestial treasury that managed the flow of fortune and wealth, and a divine census bureau that kept track of every birth and death. At the head of every household on earth was a minor deity, the kitchen god, who served as a sort of celestial spy. For an entire year, he would sit quietly in the corner of the kitchen, observing the family's conduct. Then, during the week before the Lunar New Year, He would ascend to heaven to deliver his annual report directly to the Jade Emperor. Families would offer him sweet, sticky treats, hoping to either sweeten his words or literally glue his mouth shut so he couldn't speak ill of them. This was the Jade Emperor system, a vast network of surveillance and administration where cosmic law was enforced with the quiet, inescapable efficiency of a perfect bureaucracy. Nothing was left to chance. Everything was recorded. Everything was judged. And this is where the Jade Emperor's most fearsome role comes into focus. He was not just a ruler. He was the supreme judge of the cosmos. His court was the final court of appeal for gods, demons, and men. When a soul departed the mortal world, its journey was far from over. It was escorted by two spectral guardians, Oxhead and Horseface, to the gates of the underworld known as Diu. Now, it's crucial to understand that Diu is not the Western concept of hell. It isn't a place of eternal, arbitrary damnation. It is a cosmic judicial system, a series of 10 courts through which every soul must pass to have its earthly deeds weighed and balanced. Each court is presided over by a Yama king, a subordinate judge appointed by the Jade Emperor himself. And in the first court, the soul is brought before a giant mirror, the mirror of retribution, which replays every moment of their life. There are no arguments, no legal loopholes. The evidence is the life you lived, played back for all to see. Based on the evidence, the soul is then sent through the subsequent courts. Each of the 10 courts of hell specializes in punishing a specific category of sin. In the second court, thieves and swindlers are cast into a pit of volcanic filth. In the fifth court, those who plotted and schemed against others are forced to have their hearts ripped out and examined, again and again. In the eighth court, those who were unfilial to their parents are ground to dust under massive stones. The punishments are gruesome, terrifying, and designed to be perfectly proportional to the crime. They are not eternal. They are a purification, a brutal and painful process of balancing the karmic ledger. This was the Jade Emperor's justice, cold, mathematical, and absolutely inescapable. No one was above this law, not even the gods. The story of the Dragon King of the Jing River serves as a chilling reminder. A fortune teller in the capital city had become so accurate at predicting the weather that he was putting the local river dragon out of a job. Annoyed, the Dragon King confronted the man in disguise. The fortune teller, unfazed, predicted the exact time and amount of rain for the next day, claiming his information came from a decree issued by the Jade Emperor himself. The Dragon King, arrogant and proud, made a bet. If the rain was even slightly different, he would destroy the fortune teller's shop. But when the official decree arrived from heaven, the Dragon King was horrified. The fortune teller was exactly right. In a moment of petty defiance, the Dragon King deliberately altered the rainfall, changing the time and the amount just enough to win his bet. He thought it was a minor infraction. He was wrong. The moment he did it, he had sealed his own fate. By defying a direct order from the Jade Emperor, he had broken a fundamental law of the cosmos. The Emperor's celestial guards arrested him immediately. His case was brought before the heavenly court, and the verdict was swift and absolute: execution. Even with powerful friends in heaven pleading his case, the Jade Emperor would not bend. The law was the law. The Dragon King was beheaded, a stark warning to every deity that the Emperor's decrees were not suggestions. They were the unchangeable fabric of reality. This is the side of the Jade Emperor we often forget. He is not just the benevolent, grandfatherly figure. He is the architect of a system of absolute order. His justice is not based on mercy or compassion, but on balance. For every good deed, a reward. For every transgression, a punishment. After a soul has passed through the courts of Diu and paid its karmic debt, it arrives at the 10th court, at the domain of Mengpua, the Lady of Forgetfulness. She brews a special soup, the 5-flavored tea of forgetfulness. Every soul is forced to drink it, wiping their memory of their past life and their time in the underworld. Their slate is now clean. They are then led to the wheel of reincarnation, where they are reborn into a new life, as a human, an animal, or even an insect. Their new station determined entirely by the karmic balance of their previous existence. This entire terrifyingly complex cycle of life, death, judgment, and rebirth was the machine the Jade Emperor had built and now oversaw. He was the divine lawgiver, the ultimate judge, and the cosmic warden. He sat on his throne not just as a king, but as the embodiment of order itself. His gaze was not on any single mortal, but on the flawless functioning of the system as a whole. His reign was defined by an unflinching, impersonal justice that governed every being in the universe, from the smallest ant to the most powerful dragon. But this absolute, unyielding order raises a profound question. Is a system without mercy truly just? And what happens when a force arises that even the Jade Emperor, with all his power and all his bureaucracy, cannot control? A force that operates outside his laws and threatens to shatter the very foundations of his heavenly kingdom. That force would be born from a stone. On the mountain of flowers and fruit, a stone egg, nourished for eons by the energies of heaven and earth, finally cracked open. From it emerged a monkey. But not just any monkey. This was Sun Wukong, a creature of pure primal energy, unbound by the laws of gods or men. He was intelligent beyond measure, powerful beyond belief, and possessed an ego as vast as the heavens he would soon challenge. After mastering the 72 earthly transformations and the secret of immortality from a Taoist master, he acquired a magical staff that could change size at his will and return to his mountain, a king among his kind. Word of this powerful, rogue immortal eventually reached the Jade Emperor's court. And how did the supreme ruler of the cosmos respond to this potential threat? Not with thunderbolts and celestial armies. No, his first instinct was bureaucratic. He decided to co-opt the problem, to bring this wild, unpredictable element into the system and neutralize it with a title and a salary. Sun Wukong was summoned to heaven and offered a position, keeper of the heavenly stables. To the emperor, this was a logical administrative solution. To Sun Wukong, it was the ultimate insult. A being of his power, relegated to shoveling horse manure for the gods? The rage was immediate. Sun Wukong smashed the stables, defeated the guards sent to stop him, and fled back to his mountain. There he unfurled a banner and declared a new title for himself, a title that was a direct challenge to the throne of heaven. Great Sage equal to heaven. This was an act of open rebellion. The Jade Emperor could no longer ignore him. He dispatched his finest generals, including the mighty Neza, and 100,000-strong celestial army to capture the insolent ape. But Sun Wukong, a master of combat and chaos, defeated them all. The heavenly forces were sent reeling, humiliated. The emperor's system of order had met a force it could not contain through conventional means. So the Jade Emperor tried a different tactic. Appeasement. He acknowledged Sun Wukong's self-proclaimed title, a massive political concession, and invited him back to heaven. This time, he was given a grander, more prestigious-sounding post, Guardian of the Immortal Peach Garden. It was a promotion, but it was an empty one. He was given no real authority, no seat at the Emperor's council. He was still an outsider, a problem to be managed, not appear to be respected. And the Emperor made a critical error. He put the most gluttonous, impulsive being in the universe in charge of the most tempting, power-giving fruit in existence. The result was a catastrophe of cosmic proportions. Sun Wukong feasted on the peaches of immortality, making himself even more durable. Then, discovering he was intentionally left off the guest list for the Queen Mother of the West's grand celestial banquet, his fury exploded. He snuck into the banquet hall, drank all the immortal wine, and ate all the divine food. Not satisfied, he stumbled into the alchemy labs of the great sage Laozi, and consumed an entire gourd of his most powerful elixirs of long life. He had now layered immortality upon immortality upon immortality. He was a walking, talking, chaotic paradox, a being who simply could not be killed. The havoc he wreaked was legendary. He fought his way out of heaven once more, defeating every god and general who stood in his way. The Jade Emperor, sitting on his dragon throne, was faced with the complete breakdown of his authority. His armies were useless. His bureaucracy was a joke. His attempts to pacify and integrate this chaotic force had only made it stronger, more dangerous. He had tried to put a wildfire in a filing cabinet, and now his entire kingdom was burning. For the first time, the Jade Emperor seemed powerless, his celestial government paralyzed by a single rebellious monkey. He had reached the absolute limit of his administrative and military power. In his desperation, he did something he rarely, if ever, had to do. He appealed to an outside authority. He sent a plea not to a Taoist god under his command, but to the one being who operated on a plane beyond his own cosmic jurisdiction, the Buddha. The Buddha arrived, not with an army, but with a simple question and a simple wager. He looked at the great sage equal to heaven and asked why he deserved the throne. Sun Wukong boasted of his power, his ability to travel to the ends of the universe with a single somersault. The Buddha smiled and made a bet. If Sun Wukong could leap out of the palm of his hand, the throne of heaven would be his. If he failed, he would be imprisoned. Sun Wukong, ever arrogant, laughed. He leaped. He flew past stars and galaxies, a golden blur streaking across the cosmos until he saw 5 great pillars at the edge of the universe. Convinced he had won, he marked one of the pillars to prove he'd been there and leaped back, landing triumphantly in the Buddha's palm. "I've returned," he crowed. "Now give me the throne." But the Buddha simply curled his fingers. "Look down," he said. And there, at the base of the Buddha's middle finger, was the mark Sun Wukong had made. He had never left the Buddha's hand. The 5 pillars were merely his fingers. In that moment of dawning horror, the Buddha's hand closed, turned into a mountain of 5 elements, and slammed down, trapping the Monkey King beneath it for 500 years. Order was restored, but the story reveals the true nature of the Jade Emperor. He is not omnipotent. He is not an all-powerful creator god in the way a Western audience might understand. He is the ultimate administrator, a celestial CEO. His power is based on structure, on hierarchy, on a system of laws and consequences. And when faced with a disruptive force like Sun Wukong, a force of pure individualistic chaos that refuses to be categorized or controlled, the system breaks. The Jade Emperor's failure to contain the Monkey King isn't a sign of weakness, but a profound statement about the limits of his kind of power. Political power, no matter how vast, can be challenged by raw, untamable will. This is the essence of the Jade Emperor's enduring legacy. He is a reflection of the Chinese imperial system itself, a vast, complex bureaucracy designed to impose order on the world. He is patient, pragmatic, and prefers negotiation and incorporation to outright conflict. He is sometimes seen as distant or indecisive, but this is the caution of a ruler who understands the immense weight of his decisions. He must maintain the balance of yin and yang, oversee the promotions and demotions of lesser gods, and ensure the great celestial machine keeps running smoothly. He is not a god of passion, but a god of procedure. He is not a god of war, but a god of governance. In a pantheon filled with heroic warriors, cunning tricksters, and compassionate saviors, the Jade Emperor stands apart as the anchor, the center of gravity. He is the embodiment of civilization's attempt to tame the wild chaos of the universe, to put everything in its proper place, and to create a predictable, just order. And the stories, from the Great Race to the rampage of Sun Wukong, remind us that this is a constant, unending struggle. The universe is always producing new monkeys, new forces of chaos that threaten to shatter the celestial harmony. And the Jade Emperor Yu Huang will always be there on his throne, not as an all-powerful tyrant, but as the eternal manager, forever working to keep the heavens and the world below in perfect, delicate balance.